Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 95th session of the Gerhard Center webinar series, The Aftermath of COVID-19, the New Social Impact Ecosystem. As you know, the conversations are very intense in both the business and the social spaces on the ability and the potential of the private sector to leverage its resources through market-based solutions to solve some of the world's most pressing problems like homelessness, climate change, hunger, poverty, and so on. In this series, we hosted several sessions in which we discussed purpose-driven business and the world's expectations from the business in society. In this session, we will extend our conversation and focus on a very critical topic in social business, which is the issue of scaling up. When we hear the term scaling up, we always think about Amazon, Twitter, Google, Facebook, and we rarely think of social startups as scalable materials. But today's guest speaker argues that social startups are a scalable business. Why not? Today, we are honored to host a very remarkable guest, a friend of the Gerhard Center, whom we consider a great asset to us, as we always learn a lot from his expertise, Guillermo Jaime, one of the most outstanding Mexican social entrepreneurs who is dedicated to creating value for highly marginalized rural community. Guillermo is the founder and the president of Social Global Leaders, a holding company that supplies services such as housing, clean energy, water, health, and education to the base of the economic pyramid in several countries, including Mexico, the United States, and Guatemala. He began his professional career at the International Construction Products and Services Company, CEMEX, where he held different positions. After more than 8 years in this company, from 1994 to 2003, Jaime created his first social company to offer products focused on construction for the base of the economic pyramid, focusing on innovation with new materials and methodology for self-construction. Since 2009, his company has built more than 70,000 houses in areas of extreme poverty in Mexico. To serve this economic sector in its different deficiencies in 2018, he created Social Global Leaders, one of the first social holding companies in the world that brings together other companies such as Ecoflirto, Mia, Partymax, and the Pointer Fund to bring products and services in the areas of housing, clean energy, water, health, and education to the base of the economic pyramid at the global level. Just some of the acknowledgement that Jaime received: the American Dreamer Award in 2020, Those Who Inspire in 2012, Lifetime Achievement Award from Forbes, 30 Promises Forbes, Member of the Hall of Fame 2018 ENY, 50 Entrepreneurs That Drives in Mando Ihokotoiv, sorry, my Arabic tongue, that's the whole thing, in Mexico, Entrepreneur of the Year 2012, Entrepreneur of the Year 2011, Invader, National Housing Award in 2005, 2006, and 2008. Guillermo, thank you so much for accepting to be here with us. We are ready to learn a lot from you as always. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carmen, and I'm very pleased to be here. As you mentioned, I'm a good friend of all the initiatives that you have been pushing since the last years. I don't remember where it was the first time that we met, but we have been blessed to have the opportunity to follow our steps, pushing the knowledge for those who want to improve their lives. And so I'm very pleased to be here. I'm very happy after these difficult times that the world is facing. So yes, I will try to share someone with the audience. I'm very happy, and if you don't mind, I will share my screen so we can start talking about this fantastic journey that we have been traveling for the last couple of years. First of all, I want to share with the audience why social entrepreneurship is the thing that I decided to do for the last almost 20 years, and why I think it's important. Let me show you a very quick video so we can all understand why social entrepreneurship, why I think social entrepreneurship is so important. So let me go to the process where, let me go back like almost 20 years ago when I started, as Kariman mentioned, after almost 10 years working in a corporate world. I had the opportunity to travel all over the world and have different contact with different enterprises. I was in the cement industry, so it was like a normal business environmental. But at some point, for any reason, because I was assigned to start a new initiative within the company that I was working for, to find different business opportunities. So I started traveling all over the world. I visited, as you can notice, I'm Mexican. By the way, sorry for my accent and my English, but just bear with me. I will try to do my best. But anyway, so I started to travel all over the world, and visiting some places like Africa, Middle Africa, like Mali, Angola, Burkina Faso, and so, which, to be honest, that was the first time that I was in real deep contact with the poverty. Not because Mexico having that kind of poverty, it was just because I had the fortune to born and raise in a middle class or high middle class house. So I had the opportunity to attend a very good colleges and schools, and so in my little bubble, I haven't had the opportunity to really have this contact with the real poverty. So I was shocked, as you can imagine. So I decided to deep dive, visiting some other countries in Central Latin America and other continents, and so. So what I found out is that poverty doesn't know about races, doesn't know about religions, doesn't know about nationalities, languages, walls, ages. I mean, a poor is a poor, and we have to attend it. So for me, it was shocking. Let's go back 20 years ago. So the internet wasn't like this. So now it's kind of easy if you want to find out of anything. You just Google it and you can find thousands and thousands of tons and tons of information. By that time, it wasn't like that. So the information doesn't flow as strong as it flows now. And so for me, it was like a real breakthrough. So I decided to do something, and I decided to take a deeper look of how the poverty works and how the interaction was with our regular business environment. So one of the things that I learned is that most of the initiatives that the corporate world make to attain the bottom of the pyramid was settled up in a desk in a big corporate. So it's very common that we take a look from those who have the opportunity to create these initiatives and create different products and services that we think that they really need or they're really going to use or whatever. But one of the things that I learned during this journey is that there's another way, and there's a lot of information that is flowing the opposite side. So even we don't notice, the bottom of the pyramid is also looking what the top of the pyramid are doing and how they behave, and we have to take care of that, because if we don't, and we let that space come like higher, that's where the big problems of the humanity start. We let like this gap between poor and rich comes very big. But the other thing is that what we really do, if we like it or not, it is how it is, that there's a parallel worlds between poverty and the wealth. So there's like different realities. Neither is better than the other, just are different realities and different ways to see the life. So we have to learn that, and we have to try to use it to create value for those who want to help to improve the world. So there's a lot of data that maybe you at some point know or not. So I decided to share some like big data with you. For example, the distribution of the wealth in the world is amazing. For example, less than 7%, 0.7% of the total wealth in the world are owned by only 31 million persons. I mean, or to see the other side, 0.7% of the total population of the world owns almost more than 40% of the total wealth in the world, which is, if we take a look at the left side of your screen, you can notice how the wealth is distributed. For example, in the whole world, almost, as I mentioned in the video, the world have almost 7 billion people living together. So we only have 1,800 billionaires in the world. So, and if we break down those who have more than $100,000, we are like less than 1% of the population. So if we take a look at that, it's like a little rise in the world. So we are really owned, or basically I mean, the world is almost 90% of people living with very few money. For example, 23% of the world have no shelter. 13% of the world have no safe water. 48% of the world live with less than $2 a day. 49% of the world live in rural areas. 17% of the world can read and write, and 93% of the world haven't had the opportunity to go to college, and almost a quarter of the world have no access to a cell phone. This is only basic data that I recovered from a lot of statistics that are circulating all over the net and so. But it's very useful to make the point of why I think the social entrepreneurship is so important. So basically, what I decided at some point is to do something, because you really can't avoid the reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding the reality, as Ayn Rand said one time. So there's two ways to see the things. One way is to let others to do something. The other way is you take the control and do something for that. So basically what I did is take control and try to do something using this opportunity that I mentioned before, this opportunity to study in good schools and so. So that's how we started our first social enterprise. What we did, it was like 15 years ago, more or less. So what we did is we started with rural areas, visiting communities and providing them raw materials and helping them to build their own house with some training and so on. Then we found out that they don't have enough money to build that houses. So we started to create a financial business model to help them to like have like community loans and so. Then we use money from the government and so on. So that's not the point. The point is that that's how we started the social enterprise, the first social enterprise. But the main thing is that what we achieve in those years is that we demonstrate that the wealth and the social impact can coexist in balance. Why do I think this is important? It's just because you have to make a decision. When you think about social entrepreneurship, you have to make a decision. When you start your college education or whatever, I mean, it's very common for those who want to help that think, okay, if I want to help, so I have to like resign to make some wealth, or if I want to make wealth, I can't do social impact. But in my opinion, and once again, remember that it was like 15 years ago, in my opinion, there's a balance between wealth and social impact. So I decided to demonstrate that balance can create value for the humanity. So I started growing the company. I started doing that for profit. And why for profit? Because I think that enterprises that do not grow disappear. So basically what I did is like try to make something to grow the company and to create value, so I can hire talent, so I can pay taxes, so I can activate the local economy, and so I can replicate the business model in the bottom of the pyramid, not for the bottom of the pyramid, but in the bottom of the pyramid. So I can replicate some businesses over there. So basically what happened next was like we start growing the company. When we started at that time, that year we attended only 60 families, but we grew until 2017 to 50,000 families attended. So we started, of course, in Mexico, where I was born, and then we expand the business model to USA and Guatemala and so on. But at some point, the reason because I'm going to go back. So the reason because I put these like two covers that I was invited to is not because of the ego. My point is, one of the major problems of the social entrepreneurs is that we have too much recognition. And that's very, very, very dangerous. Why? Because you are in danger to become a comfortable dinosaur, in my opinion. So I was living in a cozy world with a few social entrepreneurs. So we're having a small impact. When I was invited to the cover of the Forbes magazine, there was like a chapter within that magazine dedicated to social impact enterprises. And one or two of that social impact enterprises was like having profits for less than $1,000 a month. And I was like, what? They are in the Forbes magazine and they are basically broke. And why this recognition? So what I figure out is that social enterprises are like what I call as sexy enterprises. It's like everybody wants to do good and do well. So once you find out someone that is doing the things right, you have to like say it louder so people can replicate, and so that's the reason. I mean, it's not that bad, but that's the reason. But the danger about that is that social entrepreneurs sometimes start working for have these recognitions. So the danger with that is that you can be disrupted anytime, anyway. For example, now the startups became like the flavor of the month, and I with all due respect, but I mean, everybody's looking what happened with these new startups and these unicorns and so on. And the social enterprises are like, okay, but we keep doing what you are doing, but now the flavor is see what's happening with blockchain or these bitcoins or NFTs or whatever. So you can be disrupted anytime. So that's the very danger. So that's when I decided to like went to the next step. We maybe this is a very common like quote that if your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. But in social enterprises, what I think is that why are we seeing these unicorns growing and growing, and most 100%, roughly 100% of these unicorns are tech companies. But why a social enterprise can be a scale-up? Why not? No, if you think about it, we can think globally and challenge like the quote, like think globally, act locally. And we can think globally and act globally because the numbers are so huge. The poverty is everywhere. The opportunity is everywhere. So basically your market is almost infinite. So if you do the right thing, you don't have to care about where's the market, where's the necessity, where all this flow that you learn in the business school or in the college that you have to do if you set up a new business, you almost have the answer for all the process. The only thing is that you have to decide. So at that point in 2017, I had the opportunity to interact with a person that I really love, that is in Harvard Business School, which is Linda Applegate, and talking with her, she told me, okay, how do you want to achieve this? And I said, okay, my new goal is to become the most influential social enterprise in the world. Why? Not because I want to be a huge enterprise, because I want to inspire more people to think bigger, and I want to share like this vision that I am applying in my own enterprises. But of course, you can't change the world alone. We need to be more and more to create a critical mass to really become. To really create a better world. So basically, what I did is just change the process, just change the way that the regular enterprises see the market. So basically, it's very common that we go for the low-hanging fruit. So for example, I live in Miami. So the regular developers say, okay, If I want to build a new building and there's an opportunity in the high-end market with high profits, the number of problems that you have setting up and rolling out a new development and selling apartments for the high-end market is almost the same that the ones that you have if you go for the bottom of the pyramid, but with a very low ticket and so. So that's why people used to go for the high-end market, because the wealth is there, the money is there, the profits are there, the profits are higher with low volume, with low problems and so. So basically what I did is like just invert the pyramid. And seeing that way is like the market is super huge at the bottom of the pyramid. For example, as I mentioned before, 0.7% of the total wealth in the world are owned almost 42% of the once again 0.7% of the population in the world owned 42% of the wealth, and almost 70% of the population owns only 3% of the total wealth. But if you think about it and you invert the pyramid, there's almost 3.2 billions of people at the bottom of the pyramid. So there's a huge opportunity there if you don't see them only as a potential consumers, but as a potential like partners of the business model. I mean, if you think out of the box and you see like the market size of the bottom of the pyramid, and you start like gain fundamental understanding of the consumer needs, and look what is the mega trend and challenge the mega trend, and use the innovation process like to search opportunities, and then you start looping the process, learning something, improving, learning something, improving, learning something, improving. You can create a real big a company. So using like that process, at some point, what I figure out is that with the houses, I wasn't really making a house developer. I wasn't really becoming a house developer, and I will never become the biggest house developer in the world, or it will be very difficult for me. But what I figured out is that what I was really making good is connecting the wealth with the bottom of the pyramid. Why? Because I was like navigating in an enterprise environmental with a high level of education, high level of wealth, high level of, because I born there, I educate there, and that was like my natural environment. So I speak rich, but I learned how to speak poor. So what I was really doing was connecting the wealth with the bottom of the pyramid. So with that in mind, I decided to move from a rural house developer to a social enterprise. So start like thinking bigger. Why only build houses in rural areas only in Mexico? Why can't we come to the US to help the helpers? Because every time that, as you know, Mexico is the border with the US. So every time that we think in US, in Mexico, as Mexicans, we think like the helpers, the rich neighbors, the ones that we go to ask for some investment or some money. So they don't have like problems here because they have enough money to lead the world. And I was like, what? Just in the US, there are like 13% of the population living below the poverty line, which is like almost 40 million persons living below the poverty line. That's a lot of people. So what I only did is like change a little bit the business model and start with a rental business model here in the US to help those who can't afford a monthly payment for a rent. So I started to create this business model based on rent apartments for the very low income families all over the East Coast in the US. The other thing that I learned from this pivoting or changing of the mindset in my companies was I have to learn how to move from local player to global player. Because of course in Mexico, I'm home and I have connections and I have like all this network and so how to become a global player and go to the next level. The third thing that I learned is how to move from a silo business model to a platform business model. And if you think about it, that's what Google, Facebook, Amazon did at some point. Amazon is not anymore like a bookstore. Amazon, you can find whatever you want in Amazon. Even if you want a book, they print the book for you and they can deliver the book almost the same day into your house. Now Amazon is much more than a bookseller. Google, same thing. And all these tech companies that became like these super companies, super unicorns, move from be a silo business to be a platform business. So why can't we do the same in a social business? So we can migrate from a silo business model to a platform business model. And the last thing that I learned is that moving from single industry to multi-industry. So now we started with house, then we moved to water, then we moved to financial services, then we moved to social investing, and then we moved to a multifamily business. So with that in mind, I had some learnings that I want to share with you. For example, there's a concept that started like in the 90s, which is frugal innovation. For those who are not familiarized with frugal innovation, is basically take one product and service and like try to go to the core business or to the core value of that product and service and try to reduce the cost so you can go to another market. For example, what we did with the water filters, we started with a filter that was created not for social impact, but for environmental impact. And the market target initially was the high-end, segment A and segment B. So what I figured out is how to use this technology to go to the bottom of the pyramid. So what I did is I only changed like the container and I created a business model to involve women in the bottom of the pyramid to sell these filters in their community with so we create a different business model, but based with the core business of purifying the water at a very low cost and a natural way. So frugal innovation is a good way to find out how to use products and services to attend another segment. The other learning that I had is that the bottom of the pyramid is a very stable market. And I say this with all due respect because I want to be very careful with this, but my point is since the bottom of the pyramid have a lot of necessities and have a lot of like things to be attended, they don't really are as sensitive as other segments, for example, to global crisis. Because they live with $4 a month or with $10 a month. So if you think about it, they have to figure out how to attend the basic necessities. So those who are more sensitive to global changes are those who start like who have already covered the basic necessities. So that's when you start to be like more sensitive to these global changes. So basically, unfortunately, bottom of the pyramid is a very stable market. So with that in mind, you can create models to create a financial model for your initiative, because the market is almost infinite. So you can use like these for create financial models in your business model. So, a few years ago, I was talking with these guys of Singularity University about this. And I was telling them, okay, I was trying to make this scale up, social scale up. What do you think about it? They say, okay, it's the answer is very easy. If you are able to democratize your product or your service, you will be a scale up, because the only thing that you have to do is to make a profit of $1, only $1, whatever your product or service is. Just make sure that you have $1 of profit and democratize the product. And at that point, you will instantly become a billionaire, because the bottom of the pyramid have 3.2 billion people living there. So just make sure that every single person living in the bottom of the pyramid use your product or your service. So the market is super huge. The only thing that you have to take care of is like democratize your product and service. The other thing is that I learned is that you can pull or push products or services. It's very common that you pull your services. So you create a product or services and you pull it into the bottom of the pyramid. But it's not that common to push people to start like making local economy and push them to. I mean, this can be in two ways. Those who have found out how to make a two-way interaction have created a very successful businesses with the bottom of the pyramid. The last thing that I found out is that there's a huge difference between social enterprise and NGO. So you have to decide what you want to do. I'm not saying that the NGOs haven't had to exist. No, the opposite. I mean, the NGOs, there's some products and services that have to have been attended by an NGO. For example, in health, if you are in the transplant, you can do business with transplant of certain organ, for example, no? But if you can make some profit of a product and service, a decent profit, what I mean of decent is if you bet on the volume and not in the margin, and you democratize your product, you can create a very huge company and create value and create a huge impact as well. So basically, we tend to overestimate the impact of the social enterprises, but we always underestimate the effect in the long run. So basically, what we have done in these years is that now we have presence in Mexico, USA, Guatemala, Bahamas, Salvador, Honduras, and so on. We have helped 100,000 people with 75 affordable houses, 100 apartments in rent in the US, 17,000 technical advisories, 50,000 families drinking pure water, and so on. So basically, the message is in social enterprises, we must go big or go home. And so my final message for you is that 2 or 3 years ago, I wrote a book, and I always finish my conversations with this. This is like a history that I always tell to my kids, that it's about a warrior, that once upon a time, there's a brave warrior that wanted to throw his spear past the moon, and he dedicated himself to achieving this goal. So every day when the sun would go down and the moon would rise in the sky, he would throw his weapon into the sky again and again until he became tired. Of course, the warrior never managed to go past the moon, but there has never been another warrior who could throw his spear that far. So basically, what we have to do is to be and act as that warrior, so we can create a social scale up. So we can that's it. So we can leave some time for Q&A if you want, Carmen.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. So inspiring as usual. I have many questions, and I'm sure the audience have some questions as well. So please, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I will call your name. You can address your question directly to Guillermo. Before we move to the audience, I just want to hear your thoughts about a few things. Like, something is very puzzling to me. I see it a lot in Egypt, and I think it happens everywhere. Like, you can see a social startup that starts with a clear social purpose, and they start doing well, and as they grow and grow, we could see them gradually drifting away from their social purpose, and their business models become less and less social by time, and they may compensate for this by doing, more charity. Okay. So my question is, when and how should the social entrepreneur does a self-check as they grow to make sure that their business is still social? Because, it doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually by time. Or maybe some people could argue that it's normal that in some cases, the business purpose changes across different stages. And it's not a big problem if they become less social, as long as they do no harm. If you could share your thoughts about this?
Absolutely. But as you mentioned, it's one of the most common challenges of a social entrepreneur, because if you started with the heart, the big challenge is how you become attractive for investment. Mm-hmm. And if you start as a company that is very attractive for the investor, for the regular investors, the problem is that you are in danger to become like more a for-profit, no social company than a social impact company, and so. So basically, my thoughts about that is that you have to make like a regular check about your balance. But the most important for me is the company culture. So you have to make sure that your teammates and your team members, your investors, your advisors, and so are aligned in that, one, you are not an NGO, or two, you are not a regular for-profit company, but you have to bet in the volume and not in the margin EBITDA. If you make a huge volume, you will make a bottom line huge. If you make a huge volume and you make a small profit, with the volume, your bottom line is going to be attractive enough to get some investment. So you better be big. So the bigger you are, the more money you win, but the more impact you have. So you go to the best of the worlds. So you better go big. I mean, as a joke, I say, you better go rich, because the richer you are, the more impact you have. So you better go very rich, because that's the only way to change the world for a social enterprise, not for an NGO, of course. No?
Yes.
So that's a big challenge, and of course, so we have to be very well defined. Then, as a social entrepreneur, if you want to make charity, it's okay, because we always want to help, and there are some people that you cannot achieve with a for-profit business model. So, for example, in my case, I have an NGO, and with my family, we do some charity and so. But that's another story. You have to have very clear where is the line between your company and your NGO.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. But let me ask you about funding. Funding is one of the most, if not the most, critical challenges that faces social entrepreneurs in general. So my question is, do the challenges to raise funds vary at different maturity stages of the business, the kind of challenges? And if yes, could you tell us what's the major differences, if any, between raising the primary startup capital for social enterprise and fundraising for scale up? Do the means and institutions are the same, or do they differ?
Well, basically, you have to behave as an entrepreneur always. I mean, you have to do the homework. You have to prepare, and you can improvise. You can go just like that to make the business, because I don't know any entrepreneur, be social or not, that raise money only for his good heart or no. You have to prepare yourself. Even you are a social entrepreneur, you have to have a strong business model. You have to have very clear, what do you want to achieve? Where are you now? And where do you want to be in the next 1, 2, or 10 years? What is your main challenges or whatever? I mean, there is no difference in terms of preparation. You have to make muscle. You have to prepare yourself. So fortunately for the social entrepreneurs, there have been a lot of improvement in the social entrepreneur ecosystem in the last 10 years. So now it's well accepted that the social enterprises make some profits for them. 10 and 20 years ago, it was super disruptive if you see a social enterprise making some money. There was a social how can I say? There was a stigma for those who make profits in the pyramids. There was what are you winning money attending? Why? And I said, why? Because otherwise no one is going to make it but the government or the NGOs, and they have not enough muscle or critical mass to really make the change. So now it's more common. So now there's an ecosystem of venture capital social funds that understood this very good, and raising money right now is easier. I'm not saying that it's super easy. It's easier than 10 or 20 years ago. But of course, you have to prepare yourself, and you have to compete, and you have to be very clear of what you want to achieve.
And as you said, I can imagine 10, 15 years ago, as you said, when it was not socially acceptable for the social enterprise to make profits, that must be a challenge to build trust with the communities that you were working with. So I can imagine going to do affordable housing to the poor community, and they see you as a businessman coming to their communities. How did you manage to build this kind of trust with the communities?
The first thing that you have to learn is to, I mean, for me, the major challenge is that I connect with them, not let them connect with me, but I connect with them. because I have to truly understand I have to learn how to truly understand what they were thinking about me. And then be very humble, be very honest, and say what I want to do and do what I told them. No, say what I do, say what I will do and do what I told them that will happen. So always keep your promises.
Yeah.
Always do what you told them what you will do. Never abuse, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like seems like very basic things to do, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that abuse of the bottom of the pyramid because they are lack of knowledge or they are lack of resources to defend themselves if something gets wrong or so. So yes, you have to build trust, of course.
Okay. Thank you so much, Guillermo. Before we go to the audience, we have a couple of questions there. When you were in Cairo, we talked kida briefly about the business model that you have, like for the affordable housing when you started in Mexico. And what was really impressive about it is it was like some sort of creative way of finance. I remember that the government was involved, the NGOs was involved, and the people themselves, they were involved, like they paid something. If you could, let's just talk a bit about this model. I would like the audience to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What I did is like a multiplier business, a multiplier effect. So basically, what was happening before we start the business is that the government have some budget to attend the bottom of the pyramid with houses. So basically, they spend $1, and that $1 can build one house. So the budget that they have was expended to attend what the budget allows for them, for the government. The same for the NGOs and the same for the microloans or whatever. So basically, what we did is that we told to the government, okay, if you spend $1 or if you have $1 of budget to build a house, maybe that dollar at the end of the chain became like 70 cents because of the cost of implementing the initiative that the government have to attend the bottom of the pyramid. So why don't you only spend 10 cents each house? So instead of attending one family, you will attend 10 families with the same dollar. The same we did with the NGOs, and the same we did with the microloan companies, and so and so. So basically, the benefit about that is that from the point of view of the beneficiary, of the user of the house, with the old model, they only connect, for example, with the actual government. If the government pays for the 100% of the house, they only have one opportunity to connect with that specific government, and that's it. In this multiplying effect, if you involve the civil society, for example, the NGOs, and you make these people visible to this NGO and to other NGO and to other NGO, typically these NGOs have different initiatives, not only housing, but water, but education, but etc., etc. So now this person have connection with different initiatives and with the government and with the local government and with the financial institutions and so on. So basically, the value created for that people is not only the house, but this network that we create with them, because the house was paid by 4 or 5 different sources. So that's one effect. In the other side, for the government, they exactly the same. With the budget that they have, maybe they can attend, I will invent like 1,000 families a year. With this multiplier effect, they will connect with 10,000 houses a year or 10,000 families a year. The same with the NGOs as well. So basically what we are creating is this huge network that multiplies the value for everyone. So in that way, we start like creating this social impact, not only with the house, but with the connection between the wealth and the bottom of the pyramid.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Guillermo. We have now, let's take from the audience, Vinat Sharma. You have a question?
Yes. It was a wonderful presentation, Jem, and it's a wonderful initiative also on as far as affordable housing is concerned. And my best question is regarding, we see, a lot of initiatives, as far as housing is concerned, as far as for the, middle class dwelling and for the higher class, as far as, financing is concerned, as far as, ecosystem is concerned, for example, materials, etc., construction materials, and even today, even sustainable solutions are also in that area. But as far as affordable housing is concerned, it is not considered to be, at the top of the priority list, and that is why it is not considered to be, to be that sort of a segment, where you can, where, people try to, be, there are many takers for it, So basically, because, they are considered that, material used as a substandard, sometimes, although it's that may not be true, but there's a perception, and the location is not that good, even the financing option, digitization, etc., is not meant, apps, etc., by the, institutions, banks, etc., not meant for, affordable housing, they are much more, meant for, middle class and higher class, So and even the climate solutions, climate materials, for example, in like lighting, etc., even, the like, these today, these bricks, etc., cement, etc., they are also not that much, I mean, climate sustainable, as far as affordable housing is concerned. So how can we make it, the ecosystem, much more, much more, integrated as far as affordable housing is concerned, so that, I mean, it can be affordable houses can be considered to be much more, or to be on the top of the priority list, and people can be there for the long run. They are not meant there to be for just for short term, simply because they don't have any viable option, even the, for example, even the as far as mobility is concerned, as far as education for kids is concerned, as far as, workplace, ecosystem is concerned. So any, I mean, yeah, so it will be great to have your thoughts on that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Vinay. Well, unfortunately for the bottom of the pyramid, there's a lot of there's a huge necessities. I mean, whatever industry or whatever part of the basic necessities you explore, there's an opportunity there. So what I decided is like choose my battles. So we started with housing. So the first thing that we decided is, okay, let's focus on provide a safe shelter for each family. We know that then they will need education, then they will need lighting, and so let's focus on the 1.0 problem, which is shelter. And that's what we decided, focus. Otherwise, when you're pretty involved in with or in good connection with the bottom of the pyramid, one of the major challenges is that we want to solve everything at the time. So you go to a community and say, okay, and now they need water, so let's put water as well. Now they need energy, so let's put like solar cells. Like now they need, but alone, I would like to, but I can't. Alone, I can't change the world. What I do is like, okay, I have this connection with this community. Okay, there's a company that provides solar cells. Come with me. Mr. Community, this is solar cells company, make the connections, and I'm out. And then Mr. Water, this is the community, and I'm out, and so and so. So in that way, you start creating this network so they can connect or not. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But once again, we have to be like that warrior. We have to push our spear as far as we can, so we can start like moving this wheel.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Guillermo. If I may ask you if we can extend for a couple of minutes, we have a couple of good questions.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We have a question from Dr. Abbas Barzagar. If you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a great talk. Guillermo, I just wanted to ask you a question. You made a very strong distinction between NGO work and that of social enterprise. But as you know, the NGO world loves development and they love the idea of social enterprise. So can you tell us a little bit of how you see the divisions and the distinctions, and let's say things that go right and things that go wrong?
Absolutely. In my experience, the main thing that we have to take in mind is like just say the things by their name. If you are a non-profit, you have to say it. I'm a non-profit. If you are a for-profit, you have to say it. I'm a for-profit. The main problem is that sometimes the for-profits, the speech of the non-profit, of the for-profits, are like if they are a non-profit. That's where the problem is, in my opinion. The problem is that don't say the things with as it is. If you win some money making this happen, it's okay. The only thing is you have to be transparent enough, fair enough, efficient enough to become a big company, and you have to measure the impact that you are having, and you have to say it. Otherwise, people lose trust on you, and if you lose trust of the people, you lose everything. Because in this social impact world, the muscle is the trust. The muscle is your world. So you have to behave yourself. So basically, what I think is that to create a real scale up, you have to grow your company, and for grow the company at some point you will need some money. You will otherwise you will grow organically. But companies that have real growth and real impact grow like in an exponential curve. If you want to do that, at some point you will need to raise some money. And if you want to raise some money, it's easier if you show the value for those who want to invest as an investor. I mean, not as a donation, as an investor. You have to show them what they can, what's in it for them, so they can put some money on you. So basically, that's the main distinction. I mean, once again, I truly respect the NGOs. As I mentioned, I have an NGO, but you have to be like very careful that you don't use the money that you win, if you are not an NGO, to make donations. If you want to make donation, it's okay, but just you have to make a donation with the NGO and make like a profit with the for-profit social impact company.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abbas. Thank you, Guillermo. Dr. Ali Aouni?
Yeah. Yes, hi. I just want to sort of comment about the issue of scalability and maybe some of the, usually when you talk about quote unquote a social entrepreneur who has a new idea, his definition of scalable is very different than your typical entrepreneur. He doesn't care about growth. What he really cares more about is diffusion of a concept. I'll give you an example. Muhammad Yunus, for example. Did he ever become a unicorn? I would argue not. But the concept of a micro lending has diffused, and it went by copying. And such a mindset, he's not going to even think about franchising model. So he gain profits out of it. What he really cares about is spreading the concept. Now, this is one. Now, the other interesting thing when you talk about examples, especially like affordable housing, I mean, there are a huge set of architects and urban planners who've talked about it. So the idea is not, as a concept, is not completely novel. The problem with it is what you're mentioning.
I lost Dr. Ali.
Yeah, I think we did. Okay, till he comes back, do you want to comment or should we take another question?
Yeah, but a couple of comments until he come back. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's no one unique formula to attend this. As in any business, as in any business.
Sorry, I was cut.
Yeah. Sorry, Doctor.
Just to continue, I mean, the issue that you need scale, and because of scale, and you have to also be extremely efficient. Your operating model, in addition to offering a frugal product, you also have to be very, 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 very much efficient. And that's not an easy thing to do. But anyway, I'm done. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. As in any business, as in any industry, there are different ways to attend and to achieve the goal. In my opinion, there's different formulas and there's different ways to attend the problem. The problem is that huge, so every single attempt to attend and to create value for the bottom of the pyramid is well received. So yes, if you spread what you learn and you want others to replicate it, yes, that's great. It's working. Another approach is what I mentioned. If you want to grow your company and create value, paying taxes, creating employees, or that's another approach. It's not the unique approach, absolutely, but this world, in my opinion, need help, and we as social enterprises can help with any approach that we can, but as big as we can. That's my comment about that.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Guillermo. Can we have one final question from Cesar Rodriguez? If you can unmute yourself and address the question directly to Guillermo.
Yes, thank you. It's a question that I sent by writing, but just to tell you, I'm a very inspired person by Guillermo, no? And basically what I want to know, and probably it's related with the efficiency topic that the prior question was referring to, is when you scale up all the team that you need to have on your side. You need a very good team that shares those ideas, that vision, that inspiration to make it happen. No? What can you tell us in terms of getting that people or the team surrounding you, surrounding the company, the enterprise, or the project to make it happen?
Yeah, but in this, as in any business, I think culture is everything. I mean, you can create a great company, you can create big processes, you can create everything, but without a team, you're dead. So one of the main challenges, not only for social enterprises, but for any enterprise, is that create culture is the only way, in my opinion, that you can create sustainability in the time. So as a leader and as a social entrepreneur, one of the main challenges that I have faced is that try to transmit this passion about help and about the willing to change the world to the team members. Because of course, when you hire, for example, a CPA or an administrator or whatever, maybe they have a very high hard skills but very low soft skills, and you have to work with the team members to improve the soft skills, which means like to be more connected with this bottom of the pyramid and with this challenge of help and so improve the soft skills, maintaining the hard skills. Otherwise, you lose the balance. So my comment is that one of the main challenges of a good social enterprise is to maintain the balance between profit and social impact. So, and all the team members have to be aligned with that.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. That was really inspiring as usual. And thank you so much. You're always generous with your time and with your effort and your knowledge. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here with us this evening. Thank you so much.
It's an honor for me, Kariman. It's an honor for me, Ali. And whatever you want to know, just please feel free to share my contact, and I will be glad to keep in touch.
Thank you so much, and we'll continue the discussion in the future conversations, inshallah. Thank you so much, Guillermo.
Take care.
Thank you so much for the audience. And please make sure to attend the coming session, Monday, March 28th at 7 p.m. Cairo time. Our guest speaker, Simon Zadek, will lead the conversation around nature, business and investor risk, climate solutions, and geo-competitive opportunities. So I wish to see you all then. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the evening or the rest of the day. Thank you so much.